Okay, I think we're streaming. I can't say for sure, but I'd like to do some sound checks with you guys. Hello, guys. Thanks for coming. If you can hear me okay, I would appreciate any response in the chats. Just go ahead, say hello. Anyone at all? No? You can't hear me? Totally quiet? Yeah? Okay. Oh, good. Okay, go ahead and talk. This is Media over here. Hello.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I am live. Yes, Sam. We're just doing a sound test because last time was pretty bad and I didn't want to screw it up. Okay, great. I'm going to play the video. Now, tell me if it's too loud or too soft, that sort of thing. And we'll play it and make sure that we don't blow your eardrums out. How was that? Was that okay, guys? Was the video playing and the sound from the video okay? I know it's a shitty video, guys. Just tell me, is it any good? Can you hear it? So you're not complaining. It's a bit loud. Interesting. Okay. That's the opposite of what someone just told me. Okay, I will turn it down. Give me a moment. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's try again. Okay, still too loud. I can always crank it down a bit. It's not a big deal. Just got to know if it's okay. Da dee da dee da. Yes or no? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Anyone out there? Seems good. We're good. Everyone's happy. Everyone's cool. Yes. No. Maybe so. Okay. Good to go. Nice to hear. Okay, we're gonna get cracking here. Just rewind here. And welcome everyone to the chat. I do appreciate for the live stream going on, you guys. Do always appreciate all the wonderful people in the world of my channel. Say hello. We have a new guy on board. We're waiting for UDP to come in. I don't know what he's up to, but he is. Well, we're early just to do sound tests. But we have a new guy called Media Player. At least
Media League.
Media League. Sorry, I was looking at the Media Player going Media Player. Media League. He has his own channel going, and we're going to do some analysis of The Last Jedi by our man Bob Chipman. As you all know, is the affluent section of YouTube who likes to analyze things very astutely, very calmly, and and he has a lot to say. He only has a certain amount of time to say it. So just talk very quickly. So yeah, he's a character, all right. We're gonna look at his Last Jedi analysis, or I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's an analysis. Maybe it's just his rundown. What is it exactly?
Um, it's basically him uh, speculating on what the film is about, in the sense of basically trying to say that it's a meta narrative about Star Wars. So it's a little bit,
It's a meta narrative, isn't that fun?
yeah.
It sounds a bit too advanced for us lowly mortals. I don't know if we can
Yeah.
actually wrap our heads around that one. Not sure where what Chipman's up to these days, but this is like a year old. Like how old is this video?
Yeah, this was like right as the film came out, like maybe a month or so after. I haven't looked.
Really? Okay. Well, that doesn't sound so. I mean, it's fresh, so he must have been
I
inspired and knew what he was talking about at the time.
I think I think it was in response to people hating it. You know what I mean? Like it was the the big like, why is everybody saying this? This is clearly what they're getting at, and it's like I don't know though if that is.
I think anyone who thinks there's a clear message behind The Last Jedi is
Hmm.
is just like they have that look like, was this a good movie? And their friends like, I liked it. Yeah, yeah, you're right. And they sort of look at each other like they know what they're talking about. It's it's strange. I've never met someone who actually wrapped their heads around what was going on in the movie. Not to say they didn't understand that there were explosions and then things were going on and people were chasing each other, but they didn't know why people were behaving the way, like they didn't know why Ray was there. Oh yeah, she wanted to train. Well, no, she didn't actually. She just wanted to get Luke to come by, but they didn't explain it in detail or why Luke was there. So yeah, hopefully Bob will address all these questions that we have.
Yeah.
I doubt it. Oh, someone's asking me a question about Obsidian's Outer Worlds. Yes, I have. Actually, it's a bonus. I'm going to watch it at the end here. There's about 50 minutes of gameplay. I think GameStop or someone did. Looks good. It looks like New Vegas in space, which is pretty much all we really want in life is to play New Vegas in another world and to make it
I saw
efficient.
your tweet on that, and I didn't understand. You said Tim Curry in space. What what was that about?
Well, Tim Curry, as you know, is an amazing voice and just actor in general. There's a very famous line by him. I think it was in Red Alert or whatever, one of the Command and Conquer games, and he plays with the Soviets or the opposing sides, and he has such a reaction where he wants to escape the world of capitalism, and the only place capitalism has not been touched in space. He has this ridiculous statement, and you gotta see that because like Tim Curry. I mean, even now in a wheelchair, he's still pretty amazing. But when he was making all his characters and expressions, it's kind of like watching a British version of William Shatner. He just kills it every time. He just blows it out of the water. It's that amazing. So I use that joke only once. Maybe it's not well known, but yeah, it's Tim Curry. So yeah, Outer Worlds is there's I have some qualms as always. It does look like Fallout in space, which isn't a bad thing. But as soon as you say Fallout, you're like, oh, Obsidian Fallout. You're like, oh, bugs galore. Now all Fallouts have bugs like crazy, as we know. Notwithstanding 76, but that's kind of its own joke. Um, I really want to know what they do. It feels like an indie game because of the scope. The scope feels a lot more focused, but it has a bigger budget, as we know. It just got bought out by Microsoft Studios, which is, I mean, that's to me that's a good thing because all we can have from Obsidian is more good content, more good games, especially my favorite, which I'm hoping for, is Alpha Protocol. So could be. We don't know yet, but I'm very happy about any Obsidian product, especially in the Fallout vein, even if it's not using the Fallout license. So very excited, of course. We got 2 minutes to go. Our sound levels are good. You guys are cool. Everything's great. We're still waiting on UDP, but we'll let it rip right at 1:30. And maybe we'll pop in, maybe you won't. But by then we'll be well into going on and on about The Last Jedi and trying to. Guys, it's going to take some time. I'm going to tell you right now, it will take time. This is going to be at least 45 minutes just to get through it all. Because I can't follow this guy. There's no way. It's going to be hard. New Dragon Age was announced at the Game Awards. Yes. Do you want a balloon? They float. They all. Oh, thank you, Mr.
Everything floats down here.
Oh boy.
Hello.
Oh, is that our quiet, gentle British fellow from yonder? come to join us?
Yeah, so I was out doing things, getting a bit cold and wet. So
Cold and wet. That sounds just right on cue for how we're going to be feeling in the next few minutes. And you're right on time, actually. So thank you for arriving on the dot, Mr. UDP. Thank you very much for coming.
I didn't realize I was on time, actually.
you said in 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to start things off with. Actually, did you join the video? Are you all set to go?
Oh, no. I'm watching on the live stream, so.
You're watching the live stream. There's a delay. I don't know if you're going to like that, but.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you join the vid, and we'll get playing when you're on board, because I want you to pause. And honestly, this little Dragon Age whatever video has already been analyzed by all the super fans on YouTube. There's nothing to see. It's a nothing burger, but we're gonna do our best to hopefully just, I don't know, look at something that's there. I wish I could explain it, but I can't.
We're not going to do like a 10-minute analyzation video going to every nook and detail. This pixel means that the fade is actually invading into this, or things like that.
I don't know. It's strange. I know that our media guy here is in his own league of movies, but we're doing a bit of games. They're going to jump to the TLJ. So here we go.
Yep, I'm on board there.
So, you found me at last. I suspect you have questions.
Yeah, okay, that's it. I wish I could give you insight. When I first saw this, I thought maybe it was like this. Like, okay, first off, it reminds me of the Mass Effect 2 teaser trailer with Legion, where it zooms really close into the Shepard's armor, and then it zooms out, and it's Legion, and then his face sort of just hits the camera and it disappears. With that trailer, we knew what the Geth were. We knew what these character robot-looking things were. So it's like, oh, okay, you zoom in, and then you zoom out. Oh, I get what's going on. With this, I have no goddamn idea what the hell this thing is. And at first I thought, okay, maybe it's the Inquisitor's ripped off arm. There's a head there. Maybe it was part of his shoulder. I don't know. And then we just see it's this weird looking thing, which I guess you can call as like one of those idols from Dragon Age 2. Maybe. I don't know. I thought it was
red.
Sorry?
What's the Soylent Red in there?
Oh yeah, of course. It has to be the magical thing that does the thing that we thought it didn't do before. Now it does. And now it makes statues. I don't know. Why not? And of course we have the Dread Wolf on the right and the other Dread Wolf on the left, which I didn't know there were two of them. It means nothing. Like you don't show us an object, zoom in close, really, like right next to the thing, and go like, what is this? It means nothing. It's imagine having like, I don't know, Star Trek had a batleth, and fans of Star Trek go, oh yeah, I know what a batleth is, and they zoom in. It's like, oh, it's going really close. It's a really special batleth or whatever, and then you see Worf pick it up, and then like, and then it ends. You're like, oh, that was a really good teaser because you know who this character is and you know what he's going to do with that thing. This is just some magical object, and one of those famous Dragon Age 2D Byzantine art wall paintings, and whatever the hell the wolf man on the right is. It's pointless. And we already knew the ending of the DLC from, was it the DLC from Dragon Age Inquisition?
Yeah, Trespasser.
Trespasser, yeah. It ended pretty much exactly the same this starts. So that we're not getting any new information.
It's not a teaser, it's a reminder.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, what happened? That guy left us. He chopped his arm off, and that's it.
And some ones he didn't actually chop off her arm, did he?
It looked like he sliced it, like he did this scene, and then the next scene we see our Inquisitor with his arm all buttoned up.
Okay.
That was it. No, there was no actual like visceral sawing off the arm or magical blade. It was just he did his arm motion, and then you just collapse, and that's it. So yeah, nothing. This is a nothing burger. I don't know why people give a crap. It was such a weak story, a weak ending. I mean, okay, the DLC was obviously a better ending than the actual ending of Inquisition, but my goodness, this is, give us something we could wrap our brains around. Can anyone tell me what that thing is? It's a face.
See, if you're confused, think of how confused I am.
Yeah, you're like, what are these weird gamer guys talking?
Like, I have no clue.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. I don't know why they would do something as just meaningless. Like, imagine it was a face of someone we knew. Like, oh, Cassandra is going to be ordained or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe they chose the divine and her head is right there. It's like the Pope, and that would mean something to us. Yeah, everyone thinking this is another lyrium idol. But what do lyrium idols do aside from drive people crazy?
When they don't drive people crazy.
When they don't, yeah. More retcons. Let's retcon lyrium again. For the 4th time. The second time was bad enough in Dragon Age 2. Then the third game did it twice. Sorry, did it the third time. And then whatever this. Now we can make stone statues. Or it can grow. I have no idea. And there's no mention of Tevinter. There's no mention of the next setting. We have no idea. This game is 3 years away. Who cares? Whoop-de-doo-da-day.
Yeah, whatever they show us, it's going to change anyway, like what happened with Inquisition.
Oh, God, yeah. Remember those crazy Gamescom trailers or not the trailers, the actual demos?
Yeah, it was the PAX alpha demo when they first... That actually made me order it. I was like, wow, this looks really interesting. And I got it. I was just like... So that was just my reaction.
not advertised, not bought as advertised. Yeah. Well, I think we've spent enough time, way more than enough time than we need to give this pointless, meaningless. It's nice art. I like the 2D art, but other than that, yeah, not worth our time. All right, let's go into the reason we've all been sitting here. Okay. The Bob in Bob We Trust. Why The Last Jedi is a love letter to Star Wars fans. I don't know which Star Wars fans he's referring to.
The ones that like anthrax in their mail, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
It's hard to say, but we're gonna go through this. So, anytime you guys want to say something, just pause it, because I'm gonna be pausing a hell of a lot of times. So, be my guest. Here we go.
Recall that the specific mythological figure Luke Skywalker resembles most, largely by design, is King Arthur. You know, common boy, gets a special sword, meets a wizard, finds out he's of noble lineage. This isn't news to anyone, right? And, well, how did things end up for King Arthur again?
Blow me to Bermuda!
Once again, I get not liking it, but this idea that it doesn't fit with the franchise or it doesn't make sense in the narrative, yeah, that's a lot harder to justify in my opinion. However, that having been acknowledged, I do think there's another level of resentment and rejection spinning out of this that's coming more from a place of misreading what people think the story is saying in the film. You see, a lot of the readings, amusingly both for and against The Last Jedi, frame the film as a kind of anti-nostalgia or anti-fandom treatise, mainly based around Kylo Ren's monologue about killing the past. For good or ill, the new trilogy is all in on the idea of its story as a meta-narrative about the new Disney-owned Lucasfilm inheriting Star Wars legacy and what that means, and The Last Jedi's overall arc seems to be very much about setting up the starting point of a major status quo shakeup. That's definitely what the final shot with the kid is about, and it feels like the logical place Disney would want to take the brand long term. It just frees up a lot of possibilities. It makes sense. But when
So can I just want to say, like, the problem with the whole like meta narrative thing is like it's not in the film. So like, how do you really judge what a meta narrative is? Like, or if one is even being put forward, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's kind of,
well, to say meta narrative mean you're now inventing something, because meta means beyond what you're talking about, or like metaphysics means beyond physics. So you're talking about something that the individual would have to see. So he would have to explain what meta narrative means to him.
yeah, it just seems like something that's coming out of thin air. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Oh, he's totally projecting. I mean, that's what you do when you talk about these sorts of things. But what he just mentioned was about how the broom boy is the future of Star Wars. Like, what? Why would random no-name actor in a scene that lasted a few seconds be the next iteration? I don't get it.
Well, and the idea too that Disney or the people that are making these films have some like deep message about Star Wars in the film is just bizarre. I mean, I think they just bought the brand from George Lucas and they're making movies. Like, I don't think it goes that deep. Like, I don't think they're really thinking about the generations of people that will be enjoying this in the future. I don't know. Seems a little bit strange to me.
All right, we'll continue.
Dear God.
What I feel is happening as well is a lot of people are extrapolating out from this that The Last Jedi wants to erase everything that Star Wars used to be and shit all over the mythos in this specific case. So
It did. It literally erased the previous movie's setup. It changed. It either retconned or changed entire lore, and destroyed. The very title is gone now. You cannot have Star Wars anymore when you can just hyperspeed everything into death.
Well, even the idea of, you know, having some type of happy ending for your characters. I mean, if you're going to count everything as being canonical, we all know that they all just turn into a bunch of old frumps and die.
Well, apparently losing 90% of the resistance is a happy ending. Everyone was smiling and hugging and, oh, Rey saved us. Everyone's great. It's like, no, you lost. You lost everyone.
You lose, sir.
There's nothing left except one ship. Like, that's not a victory.
We have hope. Yeah, but we had a lot more hope when there was more of us.
It should have been a dour, sad ending, but no, we're some reason we're happy. I don't get it.
somehow say that Luke was never great and that the Jedi suck in order to hold up the new paradigms and new characters as being superior. And I don't actually see that at all. In fact, I'd argue that the entire Rey and Luke story is really nothing less than a very deliberate, earnest, and sincere love letter to the idea of fandom and Star Wars fans in particular.
Okay, that's his opinion, and he's going to explain it very well, I'm sure.
We all good? Okay then, let's talk about Rey from Nowhere for a minute. Firstly, just so we're all on the same page, just as the meta-narrative of the new trilogy is very much about Kathleen Kennedy's incarnation of Lucasfilm inheriting and trying to carry forward Star Wars as a preeminent modern pop mythology in the Western consciousness, in terms of characters and on-screen action, that story has mainly been told through the non-Jedi and/or Force-using characters, hence the First Order and the Resistance both being relatively new power structures, both trying to maintain and expand the legacies of the Empire and the Rebellion respectively. But it's also telling an adjacent meta-narrative about Star Wars fans' experience with receiving and carrying out that same legacy, just as Luke, Vader,
Okay, did you get that? It's telling an adjacent meta-narrative, not just a meta-narrative, but something outside the movie, which is now on top of something else, which is about
See,
the
that-
fans.
This is just so bizarre to me because like the only way I would accept this is if there was like a drama where there was a guy that was a big Star Wars fan and it was like real life and it was a movie about what Star Wars meant to him or something like that. I could kind of get that like you're talking about what Star Wars means to people, you know what I mean? But in the actual series, we're focused on Star Wars. Like we're focused on the things that are happening in the plot and with the characters. And nothing about it to me seems to spell out anything greater than what it is. Like it doesn't seem self-aware in that type of way.
Well, self-awareness is one aspect of storytelling where the narrative is aware of what's going on and it's addressed not in a fourth wall breaking extreme, but there is an extent upon which it's like, oh yeah, don't worry, calm down. This is just how this story works, or this character works, or this scenario works. That's not this. This is like Bob saying there's another meta narrative outside the movie. And you're like, what the hell are you even talking about?
Yeah, it seems a little bit made up.
Bob.
Obi-Wan and the Emperor and Yoda all had their own private Jedi versus Sith story, playing out within but very much apart from the bigger scale military conflict that the non-Force users were engaged in the original trilogy. Here, the Star Wars fandom metaphors are all contained within the storyline that jointly encapsulates Rey and Kylo Ren. To put it bluntly, the two of them are both in-universe metaphorical stand-ins for Star Wars fans. I mean, just look.
Okay, wait a second here. Now he's applying something else, a meta narrative, into the movie.
Yeah.
Before it was outside the movie. Now he's applying the concept of real people or the idea of a fan into the movie. And he's going to explain this dynamic in some strange way. I do not know how.
I just think he has access to a thesaurus and it's just like, I'm going to be using those words today. Just see how he rolls with it.
It could be. Oh, by the way, xLetalis just joined the stream. I don't know if he's actually here right now. I can see him.
I think so.
Oh, he's here. Look at that. Yay.
Hello.
Everyone does know xLetalis. He has a fantastic YouTube channel. He does all sorts of great clips. Is it daily YouTube vids? Is that your shindig now? Is that still maintained?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying.
Trying? Okay. Well, good luck on you, sir. And we are so sad to have you with us today because we're doing Bob Chip. But that's okay. You'll get along just well with the rest of us. We'll just
I'm sure.
power on through. Okay, here we go. God, look at that face.
Look at them. Kylo Ren goes around in a Vader-style voice-changing helmet that he doesn't need to wear
So
for
what
any
is
reason.
this?
He's not a cyborg. He's not
This is hell. This is a flavor of hell. Where Bob Chipman talks about how great The Last Jedi is. Or in this case, he's talking about how the meta-narrative of reality is now interposed into the movie. So that Kylo is in fact the Star Wars fan, and he's describing the nature of that Star Wars fan, probably a Darth Vader wannabe.
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. What was that skit on YouTube? Darth Ralph? No, what was his name? He was a supermarket. Can't remember his name.
I don't remember.
Oh God, it's been a long time.
Either.
Anyway, let's keep going.
really a Sith. He just chooses to dress up like one. Vader had armor. Kylo Ren has a costume. He is literally a Darth Vader cosplayer.
Not sure what bashing things makes him a cosplayer, or how that makes
Well,
him...
I think it's weird. Like, I think he's just trying to say, like, oh, these characters are trying hard to be like these legends that are in their universe, like people that they've heard of. You know what I mean? But it's weird, though, because I always thought that it never made sense for Kylo to, I guess, worship Darth Vader, because Darth Vader turned good in the end. Like, that was the whole point. And I'm sure that story was told because Rey knows that story. She knows, like, oh, you turn the second most evil man in the universe good. It's like, if Kylo knows that, then wouldn't he want to worship the Emperor more so than Vader? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't connect for me.
I suppose his backstory for the Emperor is that, when the Emperor gets thrown down the shaft, you got Kylo down at the bottom, and the Emperor just goes, poof, just lands right in front of him. Oh, I worship you now. Oh, that's marvelous.
I'm kind of curious who the stand-in for Captain Plasma is, or Phasma?
Plasma.
I can't
She
remember.
just has plasma-proof armor, doesn't she?
What kind of meta narrative are being inserted? Like, what kind of fan is she? The quiet cosplayer who just sort of always wears stormtrooper armor and goes to cons, hoping to get their picture taken? Like, what's hoping to be relevant in the movie? Like, hoping to have a part? Like, oh, it's a woman underneath there. Oh my god, let's kill her off. Like, what? I don't know. Like, what's the point?
Co-leading an entire movement that's basically made up of bad fanboys. That's why the Forced Order's accoutrement all look like Imperial gear reimagined by the world's most obnoxious 10-year-old fan artists. From the hunched-over, more monster-looking walkers to Ren's stupid handguard lightsaber, which looks exactly...
Couldn't they just be that it was they were basically soft rebooting Star Wars and they wanted familiar brand recognition, so they did all the same things over again?
And what's wrong with having a crossguard hilt?
Yeah, that actually makes more sense.
Why is it
you're
stupid?
Sword fighting.
Yeah, why is it stupid? It's like you want to have protection, and because it's a lightsaber. I mean, how would you defend against a lightsaber without another lightsaber? It's like, okay, what do you want here, Bob? Do you want like a really big lightsaber? Do you want like a literal saber? Do you want a bastard sword? Like, what's the problem here?
Here's the sad part too: is that for as much as I disagree with them, if certain things existed in the film, I could almost agree somewhat. Like, we never know why they're dressed just like the Empire. We just assume that they're some faction of it. But it's like, to me, the real world reason is just because they wanted to rebrand Star Wars again, so they had to make everything slightly different. But because the Stormtrooper is an iconic, I guess, henchman, we'll say. But if they actually, in the film, if they explained, like, oh yeah, they are this, group that does worship the old Empire, I could see where he's coming from, but none of that's ever explained. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
But the stormtroopers, but were the evil stormtroopers. Yeah, you didn't expect us now, did you?
Oh yes, the more evil stormtroopers from 30 years ago. They're not cutting it anymore. We gotta update their uniform by what? Doing nothing?
Yeah, we got focus tested, and the public say that we're too nice. So we need to step up our game here, guys.
Isn't this is a little short sidebar here, but don't they all look really like short now? Or is it just me? Like, the stormtroopers all look like short and stocky. They just maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Well, it could be their costumes. I don't know.
It depends.
Yeah, like,
if we go to the original, it's not the originals. Like, they're all different heights. If we go to the lore based on the 1, 2, and 3 movies, they're all clones, so they would have to be all identical.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a little bit of lore breakdown there, I guess. But then they started recruiting people or stealing people rather for the First Order. So I don't know. They gotta get by. They gotta fill in those boots somehow. So I was hoping maybe some technological solution like cloning or more robots, but it's kind of a combination of both.
Like a cheesy mod someone would patch into a lesser Star Wars game. Seriously, that's our new villains. The First Order are basically the Sith
Do we
War
know anything
reenactors
about
from
the next Star
Futurama.
Wars movie?
Anything? There's some been speculation. The only thing I saw that was a big news, but there's no release, was who's the Mallrats guy? He was on the set for 2 weeks last week, and he was crying. He said it's going to be amazing. He's like, all right. He was signing all these forms. It's like, okay, well, can't really tell us, but this this is a guy who flipped out over Batman v Superman because they were parademons in it. So, I mean, that's not a very good basis for having an opinion of a guy who gets excited over one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Isn't the next part also going to be it's going to be a two-parter, isn't it? Episode 9.
You're kidding.
Really?
I think that's what they're doing as. They're doing it as a two-parter.
Oh my goodness.
I haven't heard that, but I have heard that they're probably just going to do Return of the Jedi again. Like I heard that there's going to be Ewoks and that they're going to go back to Endor.
Oh,
Like-
that's where these new stormtroopers are coming from. They've realized that the Ewok is the
Oh,
supreme
yeah.
warrior, and that's why they're all short.
That's why they're all so fucking stocky. That makes sense now.
Ewoks were a bad idea. They're still a bad idea.
They take off their helmets and they go nub nub.
It's like, we need another Jawa. Can we do this? Well, why don't we just use Jawas? No. We need like woodland Jawas. It's like, okay, let's get more midgets. Give them some jobs. Come on, George. Get that 1970s, what is it? Did they have social justice back? Yeah, I think they did. Okay.
Darth Sploder.
Darth Erderer. Darth Ithead.
Now, meanwhile, Rey is cut from some of the same cloth. She knows all about the Force powers and lightsabers and the Falcon because she's a fangirl.
Teaser? I think it did.
We did
The
already.
chat said so.
Oh, if you wanna talk, just hit the pause button. Go ahead.
For Star Wars.
I don't
Or
know.
for-
I mean, we don't really know anything about it
Yeah, you're
other than
right.
the hashtag.
There's nothing to say. The Dread Wolf rises. I mean, thanks, Bioware. Really helping out with the Batman mythos there, using a wolf as opposed to a bat. Yeah, it's a nothing burger. There's nothing to announce. There's nothing to show.
For her, actual wars that happened 30 or so years ago that she's heard stories about.
The Jedi were real.
It's true. The Force, the Jedi. All of it. It's all true.
She has a non-functional but sentimental nostalgia helmet of her own. She has a little Star Wars doll, which is now something of a repeating motif in the new trilogy. And we first meet her living in the remains of a downed AT-AT, our new heroine, who is herself either the last Jedi or the first of whatever the new permutation of good Force users that's going to grow out of all this will be called, is an adult woman who essentially still sleeps in a Star Wars bed. This is a big part of why the whole Rey is a Mary Sue thing pisses me off,
Because you're wrong. You can't accept the fact, even though the literary definition is staring you in the face. There's so many examples. I mean, we've had at least a dozen I've seen of defining Rey, just the character Rey, and then comparing Rey to Luke, and then comparing Luke to Sand, and then comparing Sand to Anakin, and et cetera, and why there are flavors of Mary Sue-ness in all of them, but Rey is the quintessential. She's the redefinition of the Mary Sue. And people who can't get beyond this, where is your mind? Like, what more definitions do you need?
Even if it's true that she's supposed to just be a fangirl, it still doesn't explain her ease in using everything or being so lucky or being in the right places at the right time. Like, it doesn't solve any of the problems. It's,
Yeah, they could have done lots of things with lore to eventually reveal how she's so powerful, but they didn't bother to care. Maybe they will the next part of the series. I doubt it. They've just sort of gone with it. It's like, oh, yeah, this should have been explained even a little bit in the second movie, but we didn't really do that. So now JJ has to figure other stuff out, and he's just going to gloss over it. He's just going to gloss over Leia. He's going to gloss over Snoke. He's going to gloss over Luke. Everything just how'd they do it? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Well, see, I'm actually interested to how the third part's going to play out because I don't think he knows how to make a Star Wars movie without ripping off the other ones. And I think he really wants to just remake Return of the Jedi, but now his Emperor figure is dead. And, if he does another Death Star, I don't think that that's going to be accept it. So I'm kind of interested to see like if he's going to cave to the pressure and just do something different, or if they're just going to basically try to remake Return of the Jedi.
He's not the writer director, is he?
Director.
So there's an actual team of writers doing his job, and he's just directing it.
Yeah, I don't know.
If that's the case, then there might be hope, because everyone knows that The Force Awakens was just a carbon copy, and it's the safest thing I've ever seen done in a budget that size of a franchise that big. And it makes sense, but it doesn't mean it's any good. It doesn't mean it's a work of art. It means it's you'll appease everyone.
Well, the thing is, and I might get some hate for saying this, but like The Force Awakens didn't make me angry. Like I knew what it was going in, and it was serviceable. It's basically the skeleton of the original Star Wars film. So it's like there's only so many ways you could screw that up. But The Last Jedi was the one that actually made me like say, what the fuck did I just watch? I don't know. And I think that going forward, they're really in a horrible position now.
Well, I'm very curious to see how they're going to proceed. That's true, yeah.
Going to be like the Emperor walking around on little robot legs with his little half body. Yeah, I'm back now. It's going to be half a Death Star as well.
Oh, there's going to be a new big super weapon that they have to destroy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because it's worked so many times in the past. Rather than just getting 50 ships just to annihilate a planet from orbit, no, we have to build one big giant super dome for some reason.
Such a deliberately shitty
They're going to
misreading.
do the
Back
light
when
speed
Mary
ramming again.
Oh, let's not even bring that up. No more light speed ramming, please. Just never again.
Sue meant anything as genre criticism, it described obvious self-insert characters who are omnicompetent with no explanation apparently necessary. Rey has an explanation. She takes to all this stuff like second nature because she's grown up being into it. And also...
What? She's grown up... What does that even mean? She's grown up being into what? Let me just go back here. Maybe I missed something.
Rey has an explanation. She takes to all this stuff like second nature because she's grown up being into it. And also the...
Okay, wait a second. So he's saying because she is the meta fan of the older... of the woman who has grown up as a child watching Star Wars movies...
He's basically saying she's so good at this because she likes Star Wars. And it's like, that's like me saying, I've played Call of Duty and I like some of the games, so if I picked up a gun and went into war, I'd be fucking amazing. It's like, that makes no sense at all.
Yeah, you get entryway into Delta Force, completely.
Like, what?
I completed Modern Warfare 4 on veteran difficulty. Oh, I just wasted.
But for some reason, her memory of how she can do everything cannot, she doesn't know how she does these things. Like when she talks to Finn, she's like, how did you do that? I don't know. You had no training? I don't know. It's like, okay, so is she suppressing these memories? Is this the meta explanation, that the transition from physical world to movie world, there was something lost? And oh God.
You know what else fucking just defeats this too? Is that Luke, he knew about stories as well. He knew about the Clone Wars and stuff, but he sucked. Like, he got his ass kicked all the time. And it's like, what? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
So Rey is the way she is because of the
I think there's like a tutorial that we must have skipped, and she's like gone through it. It's like, you now learn force powers. Oh, right, that's how you do it. So, like, you should read like a pamphlet. So you want to become a Jedi? Step 1.
Press Y for force lightning.
Yeah.
So Bob thinks Rey isn't a Mary Sue, but just happens to know everything and be very good at it because she is the meta insert of a fan who grew up on Star Wars.
She's the wiki.
Which would suck too. Like, did you ever see Last Action Hero before?
Oh, yes.
it's this kid. He loves action movies, but he goes into one and he's like, what the like, you know, he's in danger and he's messing up. So like, even if this was a film, where like, bear with me for a second, but say if she was like a normal girl in real life and she got sucked into the world of Star Wars and she was like self-aware that she was in a movie, that still doesn't explain why she's great at everything. Like, I don't know. It's the most bizarre point.
This is not even like, forget logic. This isn't even rational. Like you are. It's like I have a container A and container B, and container B doesn't exist. Okay, he says because there is a container B, and it's so obvious to me. Clearly, A is equal to B, and you're just like, are you like where? What are you? This guy is like, look at this. I've been staring at his face this entire time. This is what he is like every moment of his life. This is how he thinks. He's like, oh, the world is amazing. I just have to explain it. It would make sense to everyone. This is how he has to explain fictional worlds and the meta universi between them. This I've never heard this explanation in my life, and I probably never will. So
that's like saying that the Room is so bad because Tommy Wiseau is aware that he's making a bad movie, and it's like, I don't know. It's weird. The weirdest thing ever.
I don't think I could spend even contemplating this for much longer. Let's keep going.
The amazingness of her skill set is way overstated. She's basically so far done the most obvious version of the Jedi mind trick once, implicitly by reputation. She won a
and it worked. The first try, it worked.
That would have been a good joke if it failed. You know what I mean? Like that would have, because maybe she did hear about it and she's like, "Oh, you will open the door," and he's like, "Fuck you!" Like, you know what I mean? But I don't know.
She's amazing the first try. Controlling a person's mind. This is like X-Men level power.
lightsaber duel on her own once, and it was against a wounded guy who's kind of a wiener. And let's face it,
kind of a wiener? The guy was trained his entire life to fight. He got injured. I would put my money on the guy with more experience and an injury than the person who has never held the goddamn weapon.
Yeah, it reminds me of Gladiator. Maximus Aurelius beats the ever-loving snot out of the Emperor, and he had a knife in the kid. It's like, never underestimate someone's rage, and Sith kind of rely on rage as their power.
Yeah. It's well, he makes the argument that Kylo really isn't a Sith. He's a make-believe
Sith light. I can't believe it's not Sith.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, you give a guy with a cross hilt who still has force powers, who's on his home turf, and he's just beating the crap out of everyone. Yeah, he'll probably beat her too.
Actually, speaking of which, didn't he in The Force Awakens just throw her away? Why is he just going to go, oh, you know what, bump, and just keep doing that until she cracks her head open?
He was able to hold her hand behind her back with the Force earlier in the film when she was trying to shoot him. So why couldn't he do that again?
Yeah, in that scene, he launched her through the forest and she hit a tree. And instead of her getting the wind knocked out of her and being unconscious or whatever, or being unable to move for at least a minute or two, she just gets back up and starts fighting again. But just do that again. Do it 10 times. I don't care. Just keep doing it.
So the Friday the 13th, throw her in a sleeping bag against the tree or whatever.
Dong, 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 dong. Is she dead yet? Dong, dong, dong. Is she dead yet? Dong.
He said being good with a quarterstaff, meaning you know how to use a sword, is only at least almost as shaky logic-wise as knowing how to fly the equivalent of a bush plane, meaning you're all set to fly the equivalent of a fighter jet.
Okay, no. I'm sorry. Bob does not know a goddamn thing about martial arts. You can trace back the entire Kempo style of fighting in Chinese martial arts to pole fighting, the spears, or what I don't know the exact dynasty of China, but back to how the spearmen would fight. And every technique from Kempo came from that. So if you want to say learning how to use a staff, I mean, however she learned, again, she learned by herself, she's amazing. has no relation to another polearm style weapon. He might have an argument if he didn't know about China and they were like, force punching each other, but then we just go to China or Kung Fu. But this is literally another weapon that you hold in your hand, and it's straight like a stick. It just happens to be deadlier.
Well, even the point he's trying to make with he's basically saying, oh, if Luke was only able to fly a small, ship, why was he so proficient at the X-Wing? And it's like, really, they never made a big deal out of it. I mean, he flew around with a bunch of other people. It was a desperate situation, and he just used the Force to fire a missile.
Yeah, he wasn't using the Force to fly. He was using it to aim.
Yeah, and he would have, it would have been ridiculous if in the first film, if he beat Darth Vader with a lightsaber, like, we'd be complaining about the same thing, as we are with Force Awakens. But
yeah, but there's several scenes of Luke flying before he does anything amazing, or dodging, because there's a whole team that he flew with and they got shot out. So he was just one of the lucky guys. And if it wasn't for Han Solo, he'd be dead.
Yeah.
Didn't also Luke want to join the academy to fly as well? Wasn't that one of his reasons or something like that to get off the planet?
I know there was scenes that were cut from the movie where he wanted to join, and I don't know in what capacity, but I know he wanted to join the Force or the Resistance.
I remember the Academy being one, so you can kind of get. I mean, this is me like putting my own head logic in there. So it's like maybe he would, flight school or something like that. So at least he gets the theory right.
Real quick in the chat, Distant World said, "Did Luke ever fly amazingly?" And when you think about it, he like crashes into Dagobah. I don't know. It's just funny.
I'll get to the chat at the end, guys. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, in Empire Strikes Back, he loses his gunner and he has to guide Wedge to actually take out the AT-AT, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's probably like the most skilled thing he does is that, but
and that's a speeder, not a land speeder, isn't it? Rather than a spacefaring aircraft, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway.
Either way, on a meta level and in universe, she's super good at Star Wars stuff because she's a Star Wars fan.
That doesn't make any sense. She's on a meta level and in the universe. She's on the level because she's a Star Wars fan. No. On the meta level, you could argue the Star Wars universe. You cannot argue the same thing in the other universe. That makes no sense. It's either good in one thing and therefore the other, not good in one thing and therefore also the other. It doesn't connect. It's either meta or not. Which one?
It's not a Mary Sue, that's Gwenpool. So from that perspective, the entirety of Rey's...
What was Gwenpool? Gwen Stacy as Deadpool?
Yeah.
Is that a thing? I have no idea.
I've only heard of it, but yeah, it's like stupid.
Okay, fourth wall breaking is a Deadpool thing. Maybe that's part of Gwenpool's shtick. Who knows? But he didn't define because he doesn't believe it's true, so he wouldn't care to. He didn't define what a Mary Sue was. But he certainly showed on the screen a few times. So it goes to show he doesn't care. He's like, I'm not going to deal with this argument. I don't know what this definition is. I'm not going to bother. All because if he did, and he had to acknowledge there's something about that and why it's a bad thing, he'd have to address it. He'd have to say, oh yeah, this is probably a fault in the story. That this is an actual bad thing in the story. And he could have kept rambling on about his meta bullshit, whatever. That's fine. But he still had to address it. And he's not. He's just sort of saying, it's not a big deal. This is not real. It's not even true. Don't even worry about it.
Rey's interactions with Luke in The Last Jedi are nothing less than a literal and figurative encounter wherein a Star Wars fangirl approaches the veteran hero of the original Star Wars and essentially says, hey, we need Luke Skywalker to come back and be awesome in Star Wars one more time. And he basically gives her the real-life version of Shatner telling that guy to get a life in that SNL skit because he's done with Star Wars and disillusioned and just decided the whole thing is kind of bullshit. And then he spends several days basically giving her the in-universe version of every deconstructionist cultural critique lecture about how Star Wars and the whole concept of Jedi are bad. It's arrogant, it's elitist, it's based on old dried-up myths that aren't compatible anymore, stuff that's been leveled against this particular franchise forever. Basically, you've heard it all before. All capped off with the idea that all the bad stuff about the Jedi, aka the Star Wars franchise, and his failure to recognize it is responsible for the existence of Kylo Ren and the First Order, aka shitty Star Wars fanboys.
You want to take your shirt off.
Wait a second here. Okay, so because of Luke, Kylo existed? Is that pretty much what he's saying?
I'm still trying to digest that, honestly. I think he's trying to say that Luke is supposed to represent the guy that doubts the true good, I guess, of the Jedi. But she, as a fangirl who loves the movies, convinces him that, like, no, the Jedi are good, and we're supposed to save the day and all that type of stuff. Which, again, it's all just conjecture, really, because the reason why he is so down on himself really doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't know. I have issues with that in general.
Well, yeah, the character of Luke as depicted in The Last Jedi is obviously a huge contention, but I guess the idea is that because she's the new character, thus she's plucky, thus she's hopeful and positive, whereas Luke is old and bitter, and therefore he's going to hate things which are old and what people like. And by virtue of being the old curmudgeon, therefore that's why he's there.
I guess.
Okay.
What?
All right, let's see what else he's going through here.
You want to take your shirt off. God. You want to take that shirt off?
Asshole.
But here's the key. The Last Jedi is on Rey's side of this argument. The movie thinks Luke is wrong about this. That's why it commits so hard to old man Luke being an obnoxious, disappointing asshole about the whole thing. So we understand in no uncertain terms that when she argues back at him that despite his disillusionment with his reputation, the legacy of Star Wars, the legend of Luke Skywalker, is an important thing that matters to people, is still needed, and can still do good in the universe, she, metaphorically representing Star Wars fans, is right and he's wrong.
Not again.
There's some necessary gray area to it, of course. The new trilogy does, at least thus far, seem to agree that the Jedi need to evolve in order to endure, even as it maintains that Rey is right about it needing to endure in the first place. Hence why Luke doesn't fully get that he's in the wrong about any of this until he gets a talking to from Yoda. And while we're at it, why it makes sense for Yoda to destroy the altar, but only symbolically, because Rey already took the sacred Jedi text with her, because of course she did. She's a Star Wars fan. If people suppose...
What? Wait, whoa. Okay, so it's okay that Yoda destroyed the temple even symbolically because Rey stole the text because of course she would. She's a Star Wars fan, and this taught Luke a lesson.
Apparently.
Why did Yoda wait so long to teach Luke a lesson? Why couldn't he have done that 30 years ago? When he, the very night that he lost all his students. It's like, hey.
Well, and again, this is all weird because to accept this, you have to accept the reasons that they gave for all of this, for Luke to be this way. So, like, the whole thing with him trying to kill Kylo Ren or thinking about killing him, for a second or whatever they say. Many people have already said that that's just horribly out of character, especially what he, seeing as he basically saved Darth Vader in the third film, in the originals. You would think that he'd be a lot more confident in his ability to quell the dark side in someone. You know what I mean? But
well, it's also another thing to creep on your nephew in the middle of the night with a sword. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, maybe knock on the door. Say, hey, are you okay in there? Getting some dark vibes from you. Maybe we should talk about it over some tea, as opposed to let me pull out my sword, and then oops, haha, sorry.
Kylo started coming to class with his emo hair.
Yeah, he started
wearing black.
Yeah, didn't want to cut his hair anymore. He's like, oh, what are you doing? Actually, no. A lot of the Star Wars characters don't cut their hair. They have that whole samurai thing going for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is pretty weak. I don't know where he's going with this.
It's practically ethereal.
Okay, Bob, let's keep going here.
Supposedly in charge of the franchise say it's done now, and she disagrees, she'll take it up on her own. And then, like any fanfic writer worth her salt, her first alternate approach involves trying to find the good in a sensitive bad boy. Everyone has to start somewhere.
He's not like anybody I've ever met.
What?
I didn't catch all that.
He killed her father figure. So therefore she wants to help him because he's bad? She was really angry with him, and then she sort of likes him. And during this time, he has this weird, I'm good, I might be good, I'm bad, I might be bad, I'm good again. I was like, what's wrong with this dude? Does he want to help her? Does he want to hurt her? Does he want to kill her? Like, what?
Well, yeah, and even that himself, like, that's supposed to be his character, I guess. Like, the idea that he's conflicted. But think of how weird this is. It's a bad person, right, who's conflicted to be good, which, you know, on paper, when I say it like that, it makes sense. But they never explain what the benefit is of being bad, or like why he personally, you know, thinks it's a good idea. Like, even in the original films, we didn't get a ton of information, but in the second, in the Empire Strikes Back, we get the idea that Vader thinks he's doing something good. Like, he's trying to persuade Luke and saying, like, we can end this destructive conflict and all that, to where you can sense some motivation, I guess, but I don't get why he's bad. And you know, especially when he's alone, like, his family is part of the resistance. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but
this is kind of devolving into nothing. I'm like, what is Bob trying to say here? I don't get it.
He's like a riddle wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a vest. Sure is ugly, though. So why can't I stop staring at him? Oh, no!
But the guy in charge eventually does come around to her view of things anyway, specifically that he and the Jedi and Star Wars are valuable for the good they can inspire in fans like her.
When does this happen? When does this happen in the movie?
I guess when he decides to randomly show up.
Oh, he just pops in for the hell of it. It's like, hey, it's Luke. Thanks for coming, even though you said you wouldn't. Thanks, Luke. Was it because of her? I don't think so. I really don't think so.
No, if anything, it was more because of Yoda.
Yoda, maybe the message from R2. I think that got him going.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought Chewbacca would have had to say something about that, but apparently they don't give him any screen time to talk to Luke about stuff. Oh yeah, my best friend died. Like, no, we're not going to talk to him. He has nothing to say.
Somebody in the chat said it happens in Bob's head, which I think makes sense.
I mean, yeah, he showed up, but we don't see that transition. All we see is him and Yoda.
It's a character arc without the middle.
Yeah, there's no actual change. It just happens. It's like chapter 1, we'll just forget chapter 2, and chapter 3 is a different person. Like, wow. Which is essentially what The Last Jedi was to Luke.
That's why the astral projection twist for the big final battle is such a genius gag. Yes, also because...
A genius gag. He's admitting it's a gag. Thank you. At least there's some semblance. You know, it could be a bad gag, a genius gag, a uncreative gag. It's a gag. We get it. It's a joke. Thank you. We admit to this being that at least that part of the movie was a joke to him. As comically genius as it was.
Because Kylo Ren getting humiliated will never stop being fun to watch, but mainly because it allows Luke to not simply show up for one last rescue, but to actually make the legendary version of himself, the invincible, all-powerful, unstoppable Luke Skywalker Jedi Master, who he may never actually have been himself, real enough, if only for a moment, that it can inspire the good side of the galaxy all over again.
Why couldn't he do that in person? What was stopping him?
Well, not only that, but nobody really saw it. Like, everybody was running towards the back of the cave, and who's spreading this story around? At that point, it's just, like, why is that story any more inspiring than the original, you know, turning Vader good and defeating the Empire, or even older Jedi? Like, why it doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't seem to make any sense.
What would have been more effective? Him actually showing up and doing exactly the same thing and actually physically being there? Or not showing up and giving it an illusion he's there and dying anyway because reasons.
And we said earlier that, like, how the film ends in a happy way. The only way that it would be, like, bittersweet is if, you know, they got their ass kicked and at the last scene he finally showed up to, like, be with them and start training people or whatever. Like, that would have been like, okay, we might be okay now. But the way that they did all this was just 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, you know?
That would make more sense if the whole idea was that anyone can use the Force, and Luke's like, yeah, anyone can. I'll show you how. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's different. Then we have this army of 24 people that just happen to use the Force. We're like, what could that happen? What could that do?
Yeah, that would have been more interesting.
It'd be like, oh, can a small group of 24 people do something? I don't know.
See, because then you could make your own lore. If they defeated the First Order, then now the new story would be like the 24 Jedi or something. It would be like a story that people would tell, and you could do a whole new thing with Star Wars. You know, I don't know.
See, what I thought was that Rey was like force bonding to like everything, like rocks, like droids. So there's all these. She was making all these connections, and there is a force bonding thing in the stories of KOTOR and what have you. And that, I don't think it does it with inanimate objects, but it would at least make some understanding of how she can pilot a ship and how she knows electronics and how she can move rocks and how she can fight. Like, she just connects to things very strongly. It's why Finn goes after her. You know, it's why Luke has the weird reaction he does with her. Whatever. Just explains something. Why she's so good at everything. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
I'm just finding it funny if, like, the astral projection completely backfired. Like, as if he kind of goes, "Oh, you're not there, then all right, onward, men, kill the rest of them." Okay, you know, everyone just dies.
Charge! It's a trap. Just keep going.
It's like Luke's just standing there going, "Oh, damn it!"
How do you guys feel about that as a Jedi, like, power? I guess, like, is that too much, or is it? Like, could it work if it was done properly, or is it?
Well, it's kind of hokey. I mean, I don't like the fact that it's done over an extreme distance like that. Okay, this whole Snoke thing, doing a two-way teleportation Skype call is insane. Like, physics, it's crazy. Okay, it's Star Wars, I gotcha. But then to do this in another way, again, it's distance, it's time lapse, it's all this shit. And
see, I like the Skype call thing as a device, like as a narrative device. Like, it gets them to talk when, if they were actually in front of each other, they'd be fighting most likely.
Sure, yeah, right.
Like, it's cool in that way. But the astral projection thing, now all that's going to do is it's going to make people think that people aren't really there. Like,
but it was physically there at times, and sometimes it wasn't. Like, he could touch, he could kiss Leia, he could give her fake dice that had
and
substance.
The dice stayed after he died.
Yeah, it was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, is this a physical hologram? Like, what's like if it was a hologram, I'd be like, okay, I can understand it, but it's not. It's like partially there. I'm like, okay, so it's like a first generation holodeck, you know. It's just sort of, oh yeah, I could touch it, but it's not really there. There's nothing physical. Like it's hard to wrap your brain around when there's too many questions being raised in a narrative for magic or science or tech. You sit there and go, okay, how does this work? Why? How could this happen? And because it's Star Wars, because there's no explanation, you sit there, okay, I don't believe it. There's no way this makes sense. And then the fact that he just randomly died with no explanation.
Yeah, that was also weird. It's like, why kill him if he wasn't going to actually be there? Like, wouldn't it have been more effective if he actually sacrificed himself there?
Yeah.
Like,
just go there.
You know,
actually make the sacrifice real, as opposed to the silly tweet that Hamill did, I think last month or 2 months ago, about because he was like a drug addict who, I don't know, quit cold turkey or something, and then suddenly jumped back on, and then it just killed him. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what is the Force a drug? Like, does it hurt you when you use it? Like, what? I think if Jedi could output more Force power, they would. Like, it wouldn't fry their brains. Like, you have a certain power limit, and that's it. You can't do. It's not like I'm gonna flex harder. There's nothing to flex. That's it.
Well, I think it's weird because, like, I've heard people make the argument too, like, oh, the original films, they would introduce a new ability like every film, basically, which is kind of true. I mean, they did the thing with Luke grabbing his lightsaber out of the snow and the Emperor using Force lightning, but it didn't, like, I don't know.
Okay, those abilities are quick and simple and obvious. It's like, okay, energy's coming out of his body. Okay, it could be static electricity. It could be some other kind of energy. It's something that you emit. The same way they emit a telekinetic force to do something. With this, we're talking about teleportation, speed of light, if not faster, if not instant. Two-way communication, like projection.
Some physical interaction.
It's just too much. If it was one thing, if it was just like blasting thoughts, like imagine he was controlling Kylo's mind. And everyone was
how cool would it have been instead of a fight if Luke appeared as an astral projection but was just like talking to Kylo. Kylo knew he wasn't there and he kept walking forward and he kept going like, you don't really want to do this, and then Kylo would like hit him and he disappears, but then he shows up somewhere else. Like, maybe that would have made more sense. I don't know. Like, it's just, yeah, I agree. It's too much.
It's too many powers at once in one thing, and it doesn't make sense. Again, the Snoke thing, he's the dark side user. He could do some really nasty, weird crap, and he's all disfigured, so maybe he's been experimenting. I can kind of, okay, fine, maybe, sure. Still, teleportation, a little too much. Like transferring material from like light years. Like, if that's the case, they can technically create force gateways to anywhere. They can just teleport themselves between planets with the power of their mind. It's just insane. Like, you're going too far. Like, there's certain things, like, I like the fact that there are Sith secrets that are really strange and unusual, and they're dangerous, and I think that's cool. It's a whole other thing about Star Wars lore. But if you don't explain it, if you don't explain where it comes from and how and where and when and why and who, it's like, okay, we can now do crazy shit because I don't know, because the story says so, and then it's just going to keep going to shit as a result of this, of having all this lore. It's like, oh, it's space fantasy. You could have wizards just make dragons, and they can fly the dragons, and it just shoots force lightning, and it's like, no, stop it.
We've also got the Army of the Dead now because Yoda doing that lightning bolt on that.
No.
It's going to be the Aragorn scene from Return of the King. You just can have like an army of like spectral ghosts just like force lightning everyone. It's like, yeah, just do that. Just kill everyone.
That's going to be Rey. She's going to be at the head of the charge, and no one can touch her because she's Rey. But then there's like all these force ghosts just like lighting everyone's hair on fire, and
at this point it's like a kid saying, and then
yeah. And then Captain America throws his shield. Wolverine cuts it in two. You're like, what? No.
You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.
Because that's the payoff for making this the central theme of Luke and Rey's story. It's not just Luke Skywalker, the man, who saves the day. It's the bigger and more powerful idea of Luke Skywalker as he existed for Rey and in the wider cultural imagination, both in the Star Wars universe and in our own.
So he was a giant dick?
That sounds about right.
What? You can't be serious. He didn't do anything. He stood there. Or he sat there. And then oh, it's not me. Ha ha. And he disappeared.
Well, I can't remember who said it, but the point of like, what if it just didn't work? The whole projection thing. It's like,
yeah.
Really, how much should it have freaked the First Order out? Like, they saw somebody there, Kylo, sparred with them a little bit. He disappeared, and they were just like, okay, onward. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that was weird.
Yeah, I think your idea of if, let's say, Luke was actually influencing Kylo, but only Kylo could actually see it, and all the guys are looking back, like, going,
what's going on?
Yeah, like, sir, what's going on? And he's, like, just freaking out. It's like...
driving himself nuts, and everyone's like, sir, can you come back?
We're gonna go on break.
You made me think of a scene that actually might have provided some context and information. Like, if that was the case, if he was only seeing him, Luke could have been giving us those details, like he could have been in his ear, like, that night, what happened, and Kylo's like, shut up, like, trying to hit him and stuff, and like, I don't know, there could have been a lot more there, but they shit the bed.
Where I'm sitting, that is the main thematic takeaway from the philosophical side of the story in The Last Jedi.
Okay, 1 second. Let's just rewind that.
Idea of Luke Skywalker as he existed for Rey and in the wider cultural imagination, both in the Star Wars universe and in our own. From where I'm sitting, that is the main thematic takeaway from the philosophical side of the story in The Last Jedi.
The main thematic takeaway from the philosophical side of the Star Wars... What?
I told you, he's got a thesaurus. He has to use it. It's like this toilet paper word a day thing.
The main thematic takeaway. Okay, so a main theme having to do with the philosophy of Star Wars in The Last Jedi.
I thought it was failure.
Well, that's
Wasn't the movie always about failure?
That's that's the one that Yoda like beats you over the head with. Oh, thanks. Thank. We got it. Okay, people suck. Okay, yeah.
Was the meta narrative that they failed to make a good Star Wars movie?
Oh, yeah. See, Rian Johnson knew he was going to make a crappy movie, so he made the main theme. Everyone sucks, and this guy thinks it's great because it sucks.
It reminds me of... Any of you seen the movie or heard the movie called Freddy Got Fingered?
Yeah, I heard of that.
Right. There's actually a meta moment in there where he got given $1 million. Basically, he just gets given like $1 million in the movie. And that's kind of a meta commentary of the movie itself in terms of like someone gave him money to make this movie. And he's just like, I can't believe someone's insane enough thinks I'm that great for this movie to be successful.
This is a very pedantic way of explaining why I like something and why you don't understand how smart I am. And why can't you lowly peon? I am so intelligent. Why this is why we can't have good things, because you don't know it's good. That's what this is. I cannot rap. To say that theme is important is fine, but to say it's thus a philosophy is like, okay.
This is one of those cases though where there's no way to prove what he's saying. Like, there is no evidence for it. And I know that like themes are like weird because they're subjective and blah blah blah, but it's like some themes are more on the nose. You know what I mean? They're more like, yeah, that's what they were getting at there, I think, but the majority of people did not get this message. Basically, I don't know.
No one put this message the same way Bob did. This is his own invention. There's no way. Well, let's rewind it one more time. I just can't wrap my head around it. What the hell is this guy saying?
Central theme of Luke and Rey's story. It's not just Luke Skywalker, the man, who saves the day. It's the bigger and more powerful idea of Luke Skywalker as he existed for Rey and in the wider cultural imagination, both in the Star Wars universe and in our own. From where I'm sitting...
Okay, so it's the idea of Luke to Rey and to the audience, which is the main theme of the story in a philosophical whatever thing he says next.
That is the main thematic takeaway from the philosophical side of the story in The Last Jedi. A meta-narrative that says to Star Wars fans, your devotion to this is a good thing, you are right about it being meaningful and important, you are the reason it came back, and you are the reason it's going to continue.
If that's the case, then why is there so little meaning in the movie? Why is there so little things to understand? There's just very, very little to grasp that makes any goddamn sense without destroying things. That cannot be the meaning of the movie. That Luke was this great guy and Star Wars was great when I was growing up, and whatever other crap he just said. It doesn't make any sense. If meaning is supposed to have value, it's just not there. If it had value, then you could look to the first or second movie and go, okay, yeah, we know what the story is there. We know what A New Hope is all about. We know what vanquishing evil or fighting against the bad is all about. We can say, okay, good versus evil is a clear theme, regardless of the paint job it's with. We can see it. We can see the character. We can see the hope and the spunkiness of Luke as he tries to fight. We get that, the struggle. We don't get that in Last Jedi. We don't know why Rey is doing what she's doing. She was sent with Chewie to get Luke. She fails, so she decides to get Kylo because she thinks she could help him, even though she sucked at trying to get the Jedi Master here. And that doesn't work out. And then everyone dies. And then she moves some rocks. That's it. Luke being there is not even relevant to what she wants to do. Whatever it is, because she never really makes that clear. Aside from, I need to know my place in all this. Okay, she has family issues. She doesn't belong anywhere. She wants to belong to something. Is that the Resistance or the Rebels or whatever? I don't know.
Well, I said this in one of my videos, but it's sad because really the most interesting thing about her, or at least it was speculating who she came, or like where she came from, like who her parents were. And if there truly is no one, or if it doesn't matter, or whatever this movie tried to say, then there's not enough there for her as a character that makes me care.
Yeah, imagine she had a dynasty. Imagine she had a history where, I don't know, she was like a princess or something in the princess of, or a kingdom of conquerors. And she's like, oh, wow, I come from a whole group of people that want to conquer places and they threw me away, or I got lost or whatever. Like, holy crap, do I do this? Do I keep doing what I want to do or not? Making her nothing, but making her a god is the most insane thing. It's just wrong. You don't just put abilities onto people for the sake of it.
Well, and this idea too, and this is just something that the movie is apparently trying to do, but like the whole thing with the kid picking up the broom with the Force and all that, it implies that, anybody could be a Jedi, or, especially with Rey, like, oh, this girl can just be the shit at
maybe
all this stuff.
If that was one of the messages, I think that's really ridiculous. That would really change how the lore works in the whole.
But well, that's what I was getting at. Is like I've seen some videos where people say that was the point, but it's almost like that saying, if everybody is special, then no one is. It's like, if anybody can do this, then
I like the idea that this is like a rags to riches story where she's starting from nothing, and she's getting friends, and she's helping people, and she's getting stronger and better. It's like I'm nothing, and all of a sudden I'm the most important person with no explanation and no reason why or how. It's just like, oh, hey, you should go get Luke, as opposed to, oh, this is my disgruntled brother. I should probably go find him because I know what went through his mind, and I'm the only one who could bring him back, and whatever. It's just like, yeah, Leia, you should probably go get him because you're the best person. Or I don't know why Chewie didn't get him. I mean, it's basically Han's best friend, and they connected at the hip, and it's like, why didn't you just like beat him up and drag him with you? I'm bringing you back, Luke. I don't care. Like, it's just dumb story points that had no payoff. And this is some amazing meta narrative. A love letter. Where's the love letter? Where's the happiness?
Well, his whole line before too of like, oh, this is telling all the fans that this only exists because of you, and it will continue to exist, because of you. And it's like, if anything, it's likely to phase out now because of this movie.
It's the exact opposite of a love letter. What is he talking about?
It's a cease and desist.
It's, I'm going to shit all over your dreams, all your childhood memories. Everything you were hoping for is a lie. That's not a love letter. That's like the opposite of a love letter. It's like, I hate you. I don't like you. Go away. My ideas are better than yours. J.J. Abrams, George Lucas, whatever those ideas were, I don't care. I'm doing my own thing.
Well, did you see that somebody, I think it might have been Red Letter Media, they showed a little clip of Rian Johnson in an interview for some movie he made years ago, but it was basically saying, like, if everybody walks out of my movie and says it was great, I don't want to make that movie. He's like, but if half the people walk out saying they hated it, and the other half walks out saying that they loved it, that's the kind of movie I want to make.
It's
like, why?
It's a very strange. I mean, to weigh that. I think what he was trying to say is, like, because he was doing Brick at the time, I think, and that's a detective. Like, a detective story has to have lots of twists. Mm-hmm. So there's parts where it's like, okay, I didn't really like this part and it threw me off, or this one really like you want people to have a differing of thinking and a way of looking at it. But in general, no, you want to make quality. You want to make a quality murder mystery. You want to make a quality space opera. You want to make a quality this or that. You don't want to make crap. So he's not stupid in what he's trying to do. But I don't think that's applicable to everything when making a movie. And if it is, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. So I could understand it if he was doing it like his noir, which when you look at Brick, it's like a high school noir, which is a really strange combination of ideas. I actually liked it because it was so like, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, what was his name? The actor there played the main character. It was very jazzy. Like the language was very strange, but the setting was so, like, I think it was 70s or maybe even 80s. I don't even know the exact setting, but it felt so unique. It's like, okay, I can appreciate a dark sort of story with a bunch of high schoolers, and it won't fit for everyone. It didn't fit for me, especially the language. The language itself was good at sometimes, but really bad at other times. Like, I didn't understand what the femme fatales were saying, or it was too jivey. But that was his philosophy. It was like, I'm going to have maybe a really weird thing here and a really interesting thing here. It's going to attract someone, and half of that's going to not attract someone, or maybe even repel them. So I think that's what he was getting for. I don't think he was ever wanting to say, I want to make a movie that people are going to hate. And I think he turned way too many dials to what he was trying to do. If you want to subvert expectations, you want to subvert plots, you want to do twists, great, no problem. There's all kinds of history and murder mysteries and ancient, Iliad and the Odyssey to look at, how things can be changed and thrown on the 180. All kinds of ways of doing that in drama and stage productions. Go crazy. But to take existing lore and plot threads or story threads and to do nothing with them, or just forget about, is just insane. Like, if he really wanted to have that effect, he would have turned all the dials for stories. He would have brought in all these characters, have all of them interwoven, and been this big cluster of just weird stuff happening all at once. It's been so exciting, and some people couldn't follow it, but there's so much stuff going on. That would have been exciting. It would have been crazy, but you wouldn't be bored. You would be seeing all these crazy things happening, and it's kind of what Star Wars is, like a big war going on, and things are blowing up, and people are dying, or sometimes not dying. That would have been worthwhile. Instead, we got a slow-mo space chase where people can escape the space chase, even though they can't, or they shouldn't be able to, so they can go back to the space chase and not be detected again, so they can stop them from being tracked by the space chase. It's just like, what? Why is this subplot happening? What? It's bizarre. And why the general will tell everyone the plan is, who knows? Why doesn't Yoda show up 30 minutes before or 30 years before? Who knows? Why does Luke get nostalgic over a recording and doesn't care after that? I don't know. It's just he's pushing these buttons. He's not pushing them all the way or not pushing them right. I don't know. It's a mess.
Mind if I come up with a theory? Do you ever get the impression that Rey's the actual embodiment of the story itself?
You mean like the spirit of Star Wars and the...
No, like just the current trilogy right now, because it's
Right.
like Kylo says you are nothing, you came from nothing. It's like, well, actually, yeah, she did, because she came from J.J. Abrams' napkin that the idea was written down on, pretty much.
I have no ideas. Let me steal from the original and just put a new paint job on it. Yeah.
No direction. There's no reason. It's just there.
There's no reason to exist. Yeah.
Part of me thinks like, and again, this is getting into like tinfoil hat type of shit, but part of me thinks that he, he had a pretty daunting task, which was to make a sequel to like one of the biggest franchises, and I think a lot of people were expecting a remake of Empire Strikes Back in the same way that Force Awakens was a remake of Star Wars, and I think he got frustrated with that expectation, and he just said, well, fuck it, this is all stupid anyway, I'm gonna do my own thing, and it's gonna, like, it's hard to tell if a lot of this was premeditated, like he knew it was gonna get people angry, because he did post shit like, your Snoke theory sucks, and like, he was actively like, I don't care about this stuff when the movie was being made. So it's just genuinely confusing.
It's like it's springtime for Hitler, but Star Wars edition.
Yeah. How crazy can I get this thing to bomb? Oh wait, they like it. Oh wait, no, they don't.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I'm very curious about his thought process on it.
Oh God, I'm not. It's someone who should not have been given the reins, and there should have been the writing team to say no. To say, listen, Ryan, 20 of these ideas are horrible. You have 5 of them which need some work, but the most of them just start again, man. Anyway, let's keep going. We're almost done.
A guy who says let the past die is a total hypocrite who stays on the shitty path he was already on and firmly establishes himself as irredeemably evil, the disillusioned grump who...
No, he doesn't. He's good. Then he's evil. Then he's good again. Then he's evil again. Because he just feels like it.
Wanted to end the Jedi, sees his error and is redeemed. The fangirl who argued him out of his funk and then led by his example is thus his redeemer, and by...
No, she didn't. There is no evidence to show that she beat him up and he lay on the ground defeated. And then she walked away. She didn't drag him with them. She walked away. She gave up on him.
Oh, you're talking about Last Jedi or Force Awakens?
The Last Jedi. She literally walked away. She beat him up. Oh, I could beat up a Jedi Master. I guess I don't need you anymore. That's what she did. And then she thought she could turn... I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know how she got on the bloody ship. I'm going to go in an escape pod. They didn't shoot me out of the sky. Okay.
Just imagine if like she gets caught in the crossfire, just like gets destroyed in the escape pod.
They're launching a missile. Fire it. Shoot it out of the sky. Boom. Why did they just land the ship? I don't know. I guess Chewie didn't want to do it. I'm not going over there. You're crazy.
By proxy, the co-savior of the Resistance. The Star Wars universe is thus preserved and reaffirmed by the faith of a Star Wars fan.
Oh, come on. This is a cheesy commercial, and this is somehow relevant to your argument, Bob? Oh, my God.
I'm not really sure how that could be more the opposite of trashing or diminishing classic Star Wars. Our main...
You don't see how this movie is trashing the original lore? Lightspeed ramming, Force Ghost summoning lightning, this entire scene with Rey, and Luke just chucking it over his shoulder as if it means nothing. Imagine you had your favorite Star Wars toy and someone grabbed it and chucked it. Do you think that's a sign of respect, Bob? Maybe not. Maybe not so much, huh?
Main heroine is our main heroine because she's driven by reverence for, essentially, classic Star Wars.
What nonsense is this? What an absolute... She's a fangirl, therefore it's a good Star Wars movie. Is that what he just... I think that's what he just said. Just rewind here.
I'm not really sure how that could be more the opposite of trashing or diminishing classic Star Wars. Our main heroine is our main heroine because she's driven by reverence for, essentially, classic Star Wars. The guy whose opinion on everything Star Wars that came before is, it sucks, just get rid of it, gets his ass handed to him not just by Luke Skywalker, but by, from a certain perspective, a motion picture about Luke Skywalker.
He did not get defeated by Luke Skywalker. What is he talking about? He might have been embarrassed. He might have been tricked, but he wasn't defeated by it. They freaking annihilated the Resistance. There's one ship left.
I think that if you if you got your entire opposition down to like 12 people on a ship, I think you won.
Well, yeah, they lost a few cruisers here and there, and the main ship got torn in half, but they still won. Like, what? Like, what is he? Did we watch a different movie? This happens every time I see one of these videos where they're, oh, this is amazing, this is great. It's like, that didn't happen. Like, that literally did not happen.
Oh,
it's like headcanon up the ass. It's like, dude, look at the screen.
Willed into action by the needs of fandom to see one more motion picture about Luke Skywalker.
Don't fuck with the Jedi Master, son.
Now, whether...
Okay, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, can we just... I have to give it to Mark Hamill. He's fucking great.
Or not this particular story was the one they should have been telling on its own merits, that's a whole other discussion, i.e. do we really want it to be okay for a feature film and a multimedia branded intellectual property franchise to make sanctifying the existential righteousness of said branded intellectual property?
No, whatever the hell you just said, no. He's throwing words together. It's like, dude, what, can you just put it in a simpler way? With 5 words?
This is 10,000 words to say 10 words. I don't know. It's so ridiculous.
I remember my dad telling me a story when he was writing essays back in high school. He was like, okay, I'm going to really impress my teacher. I'm going to use all these adjectives, all these weird nouns, versions of nouns you never use. And he failed him. He's like, listen, no one writes like this. No one wants to read this crap, okay? Write normally. And maybe I might consider it. Like, no one's gonna listen to you, Bob, if you keep talking like this. And I don't think you actually talk like this in person, because that's okay. Maybe you have a great vocabulary. Maybe you write it down. I don't know, but no one will understand what the hell you're saying. Okay, Jordan Peterson isn't as confusing as you are. Okay, Aristotle's not that bad. He has a lot of complex ideas, but it's at your pace to read them and digest them. You go too quickly and you have too many words when you're trying to say something like, the point of this movie was this, or the point of why this movie works is that, not whatever you just said and whatever you're going to say. Let's just keep going here.
As a life philosophy and acceptable theme. I mean, there's definitely a lot of not terribly comfortable arguments to be had on that front, hashtag late capitalism. But for our purposes...
What?
Late capitalism? What does that even mean?
I think that's him trying to shoehorn in some political stuff, basically saying, like, the only thing wrong with the movie is that it's made by Disney, and Disney is a large company.
but what is late capitalism? I've never heard that term before.
I don't know. I think it's... I don't know.
It's postmodern capitalism.
It's the idea that, you know, anything that makes money is inherently evil.
Ooh.
I guess.
Lord. Okay.
But then he's talking about fandom who buy and gather merchandise.
Yeah.
As brain melting.
At the moment, it is the story that The Last Jedi chose to tell, and I think they do a pretty profound job of it, considering how difficult of a juggling act a lot of this material is. And while I get where wires are getting crossed for some people, it kind of still blows...
Okay, we're getting crossed just listening to you, buddy. We don't know what you're trying to say. We're not confused about how bad the movie was. Okay, people can love it and whistle in their heads all they want and have rose-tinted glasses. That's great. We're not, you want to love what you love. That's great. We don't care. You want to come at us and explain why it's great? You better have some damn good reasoning, because all the evidence points to you're a moron or you don't understand what is in front of your face. And it's one thing to dislike something or like something for any reason. It's another to have bad explanations. And this, I can just say he invented, I think, about 90% of what he's talking about.
Well, it's weird because the structure of his arguments is like 2 paragraphs of, the thesaurus, basically, just completely baffling you with words. And then when he gets to his like final closing statement of his paragraph, it's not based on anything. It's like
yeah, I can interpret the fight scene or the non-fight scene or whatever the meta narrative is of the confrontation between Luke and not Luke and Kylo, and spin it in so many ways to make it look attractive, visually, sound-wise, thematically, dramatic. I can do all that crap, but it's not. It's not self-evident. It's not coming off. I have to actually stop and go, well, if you put this lens on, you could see it this way. It's like, no shit. I can put any lens on and see anything as great or bad or good. And that's all this is. It's just this weird interpretation that has no semblance to what's actually there. I don't know why people do this. I wish I could. See, I can have a conversation with Bob, but if I can't actually sit him down and say, listen, Bob, do you know how lightspeed ramming works? And if he does not have a concrete explanation, then we can't continue. He has to say, no, I don't, because it's different than the way it was explained previously. And I'm gonna show, after we're done here, I'm gonna show you a little comment that someone made. That's a long comment, and he talks about lightspeed ramming. And just to show you how deluded these people are.
Blows my mind that so many are reading an anti-fan message from what seemed to me to be the biggest thumbs up a modern franchise has given its fans without full-on breaking the fourth wall to do so. And in terms of whether or not it disrespects the Star Wars legacy in itself in order to get there, well, consider the now famous final sequence of the film. The kids playing with the makeshift action figures at the end, symbolizing the meta-narrative of Star Wars as an enduring modern legend in the earnest sense, and one imagines Disney is hoping in the business sense as well. They aren't acting out Rey moving the rocks so everyone can escape. They're acting out Luke facing down Ren and the Walkers.
Okay, so the kids with the broom and whatever, that's a meta-narrative as well. About Star Wars living on through paraphernalia? Like, what? Is that, what is he talking about? To sell more toys, therefore meta-narrative kid broom boy is good? Like, what?
And he said the now famous scene. I would say the now infamous scene.
He's infamous. It's like Three Amigos joke there.
He's got some point to make here. Let's find out.
The Last Jedi literally signs off with a final acknowledgement that yes, the new heroes are carrying this forward now, but only because the original heroes made it possible. And that these...
That is the dumbest... Because there was a series before, therefore there's one now. Thanks, Bob.
I think that statement is implicit in the fact that there is... Or let me rephrase that. It's explicit because they're making another fucking Star Wars sequel. Like, there's no need to say anything in the film. Like, I don't know.
Oh my god, this is so ridiculous. It's like, oh yeah, we remember. Yeah, it happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We heard the story, Bob. Yeah, okay, we get it. Thanks. Yeah.
Imagine all the characters hanging around and kind of going, well, what should we do now? Well, we wait for the sequel to happen. That's why. Just completely break it.
These kids who will themselves inherit the Star Wars mantle from Rey, Finn, Poe, Rose, and all our other current main...
How do you know that? How do you know this, Bob? Did a little fairy tell you it's gonna happen? Broom Boy is gonna start wielding a lightsaber? His career is set for the next 30 years? Is that...
Oh, let's also... I think Mahler brought this up, or somebody did at some point, but those kids they're like slaves on that planet. It's like, so it was more important to let some alien camel horse thing go than it was to freak slave children.
Oh yeah, no, they're all a bunch of little rays. They're gonna like Mary Sue their way out of the galaxy.
Oh yeah,
and into the meta narrative of reality, and then that will then be juxtaposed into the envelope that is whatever the next series is, so that they can reinvent the franchise to sell more breakfast. I don't know, something. They're gonna sell something.
I've just realized because if they'd left those kids on that planet, well, wasn't like the Last Order like on that planet, and they just taken it over? So he's like, oh, so now Kylo's now got potentially a recruitment thing for Sith, because they're all Force users. So he just goes, oh right, hey, do you want to join the Sith side? We got cookies.
We got cookies. Cookies are better than dogs.
Yeah. So you have to find some kyber crystals, and off he goes. Woof, that's it. You got an entirely new
they have that completely unused plot thread of the Knights of Ren or whatever. They're supposed to be like, 10 other guys.
One of many plot threads that were forgotten and dropped. Or just... Yep. Stuff happens. We can't fill in all the blanks. So sorry.
Players someday will absolutely still be holding Luke, Leia, Han, and the rest in admiration just like they did. A thank you to the fans for carrying on, and a thank you to the veterans for making it worth being carried on.
Now, that's actually true. They were playing with toys of Luke Skywalker, so bravo there, Bobby. You got that one. I'll give that one to you.
One in a row.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes.
That's not the right
one.
At least that's what I got.
That is not the right clip to use. That clip is used in every context that I've seen in a negative light. Now it's being used in a positive one here. I don't know. It's funny.
Subverting expectations.
That's it? That's it?
I guess so.
We good? I don't want to hear whatever minute of that crap is. Okay. Let me see if I can get this thing up here. This is by, well, it doesn't matter who he is, but this is one of the responses from, I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, you guys can't see this. I do apologize. How do I show you this to you? I know the guys in this. Can you guys read the actual stream?
Yeah.
Okay, so go to the stream. This is a response from a Nick Herzog, and this is one of these apologists of the movie. I'm going to read it to you guys just so it's faster. Here he goes. This is a response to something I said in the actual Just Right video I responded to. Why do we need there to be a message? That was my word. Why can't we just have flat characters? This pretty much sums up the problem with your entire view of this movie and the way you see Star Wars in general. Well, no, that's not the problem with the movie. It's one of many problems, but having a flat character is neither good nor bad. It's just a character. It's like Shepard from Mass Effect. He's just there. He should have flaws. That would have been great, but unfortunately, he doesn't. So already we're already messing things up, and things are not making sense. The premise is entire. This is sums up the problem. Again, we're already wrong. You say the most important part of Star Wars is the plot, not the theme or character arcs. The most important part of any story is the plot. It's the spine of a story. Without that, there's no meaning to be had. That's just an ignorant statement from someone who doesn't seem to have an understanding of what plot actually is. Well, actually, I do know what plot is, and I admit that plot is a nebulous term, and I define it with the E.M. Forrester's definition. It is the why of a story. I've said that many times on this channel. Plot is directly related to theme and character. No, it is not. Plot comes from character, but theme is its own beast. That's another nebulous term. I won't start getting to that. The plot of a good story is developed specifically to give characters the morality lessons they need to make something better of their lives. No, it's not. That would be a flaw in someone's character, and that's why you have character growth and character arcs. Plot is the why they're doing what they're doing. It's a public outcry or a public desire for something, whereas a flaw is an internal thing to solve. Then he speaks of John Truby. John Truby calls this the moral argument that is at the core of every good story, according to Truby, not necessarily. There's lots of movies that are great or stories that are great where characters do not have flaws, like The Princess Bride. We have Wesley, the man's freaking perfect. He goes around on an adventure and he saves people, or he saves Buttercup, and it's all fun and games. It's a great movie. It's one of my favorites. And Juby calls this is what most of the haters don't seem to understand. In order to have a good story, you have to have character change, or at least a moment when a flawed character has the opportunity to change. I would agree. That would definitely make a good story. Again, it's not essential, but it's certainly in the right direction. I don't know why he put have to have it. You do not need to have it. And you can think of any movie you like where a character is a static brick. You could look at Mass Effect. The first episode, at least, the first one, Shepard learns absolutely dick all, but it's a great story. A movie is not a Wikipedia entry. I don't know what that means. It has to get people emotionally involved, and the way that's done for most normal humans is by watching characters who have flaws overcome their flaws and grow. I don't think getting emotionally involved is... Drama has nothing to do... it helps. Identifying with people's flaws certainly allows them to get emotionally involved, but it's not the only way. You could be emotionally involved by explosions. You can be emotionally involved by people dying. Those aren't character flaws. So a demigod Luke, for example, hanging out, waiting to train Rey, isn't nearly as interesting as a broken Luke who needs to overcome a weakness to return to being a hero. Okay, maybe. That's saying something is as interesting as the most generic thing you could say about a literary element. This is interesting. Wow. Thank you. That's subjective. The people who think Luke didn't need a character arc because he already had a character arc in the OT just don't understand storytelling. Well, Luke having a story to begin with that we could reference means that people do actually understand storytelling. They watched the movie. So I don't know what he's getting at there. You literally don't have a story unless the heroes have flaws or problems that are holding them back or ruining their life in some way. No, I can ask what you did on the weekend, and you can tell me, well, I went without my friends, and then we went fishing, and that's a story. That's a complete story. So no, you're not addressing oral or written traditions. You're not doing stage productions. You're not talking about radio dramas. You're not talking about comic books, etc. So no, that's wrong. So from a storytelling standpoint, and given the mystery box JJ set up, whatever exactly that means, Luke's arc was pretty much the only way Rian Johnson could go.
I disagree with that just because it's like Luke, I think, left a map to be found or something
This is the only way Rian Johnson could have written Luke. From a storytelling standpoint. There's no other possibilities in the whole world of storytelling. No imagination could ever solve the problem of writing Luke in a different way. There's no way. Just let that sink in. This is a man who responded to me on the internet. If you don't like it, blame JJ, not Rian Johnson. I, for one, absolutely love everything about Luke's character and arc. Of course he does. So it's hard for me to understand why so many hated it. Well, that's okay. Luke's character and arc in Last Jedi is so... It's hard... Okay, blah, blah, blah. Having argued about this movie for months now, it seems to me that the basic problem is just nostalgia. No, it's not. I have almost no nostalgia for Star Wars. It was a long time ago. I liked it when I was a kid. That's it. I mean...
Well, to put that into reference, I'm a fan of the original films, but I didn't see them till much later in my life. So I don't have like young nostalgia for them, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The haters have a very prescriptive formula for what they want in a Star Wars story, which Sage Hayden does a great job of explaining in this video. Oh, the Just Right. Whether that leads to good stories or not. That's interesting. I didn't know that the haters had a formula. I thought everyone had expectations, but that was because there was a movie before it. They want to relive the OT over and over again. No, they don't. I think J.J. Abrams just did that because it was safe, because he knew what people liked. Doesn't mean they want the same thing over and over again. That's why most of you were pretty much fine with The Force Awakens. No, I wasn't, even though it was basically just a remake. We know it was, and I didn't. That's one of the reasons why I hated it. Originality is not on your list of prescriptive criteria. Originality is not on your list of prescriptive criteria. Yeah, go ahead. I don't.
When you're talking about a franchise that's been around for, 30, 40 years, something like that, it's like I don't think you can be harping on about originality too much. I mean, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get it. I think he makes another comment later, but it's kind of weird because, yeah, you have certain expectations because it's an instance of a franchise. Obviously, you expect certain things from a franchise because you've watched the other movies. You know what to expect to a certain degree. You expect a Star Wars, a war in the stars of some denomination, right? It's the title of the movie. Kind of have to go with that flavor. Lightsabers clashing and lore rule following, on the other hand, are definitely not. Okay. GL doesn't even care about following the rules of his own lore. GL. Who's GL?
George Lucas.
George Lucas. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he did. I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars guy. Maybe he did. Maybe he changed it. I know he changed it in the prequels for, of course, the Force. But I mean, it's not a horrific undertaking.
There was a few things wrong, I guess, lore-wise with those, but mostly it was just the execution of them. Like I've heard people say that they liked the prequels because they could see what they were trying to do underneath. You know what I mean? Like there was still some semblance of, okay, this is a fall of the hero type of story, or at least it's attempting to be. But yeah, there's a lot of issues there.
It's a hero's journey. It's a very simple template. Okay, so also if you think the message of the movie was let the past die and that was some sort of meta commentary about the Star Wars franchise, you simply have no idea what you were watching. Okay, so the actual literal message of the movie is not the message of the movie. Just so you guys know. Letting the past die that Kylo was talking about was not one of the themes. It wasn't the message. Just so you know that. That line is delivered by the villain. Oh, because the villain said it, therefore it's not true. Okay. His view is expressly rejected. Okay. So, and by Luke, when he endorses Rey as the last... he endorses Rey, I guess. Sure.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that line, it would have been more interesting if Kylo and Rey actually teamed up. And, the only reason that he's wrong, quote unquote, in the story is because he decides to still be evil for some reason. Like he, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
first
know.
he's
Like,
good, then he's bad, then he's good, then he's bad again. It's just like, what are you going to do with this guy? If you want to attack a film, you should at the very least have a basic understanding of what happens in the story. Ooh. So apparently I wasn't paying attention. That's just me. I'm not going to read my response. This guy keeps going on. Like this. I mean, it's just like, I'm not even going to bother with this guy. It's just one flawed premise after another, one fanboy after. It's just like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, those are the kinds of people that you're going to be dealing with whenever you talk about Star Wars, whether it's online or in person. Again, I've never met one of these people in person who've liked the movie. I'm sure they're out there. They've got to be, the casual dude. I don't think I'll get a hardcore guy like that. I think they're a bit hard to find. But it's just funny to find out. Like I've never seen an effective take on Star Wars: The Last Jedi in video format, in blog format, in any discernible way that I can make sense of. So if there's anything else, guys, I'm gonna start doing super chats. I'm gonna scroll all the way to the top and see what I missed. Thanks for everyone your patience here. And if I miss any, just someone catch me. Here we got. Scrolling down. Who's getting analytically destroyed today? It was in the title. I can answer simple questions. I'm very good. Okay, why were Yoda Mace so powerful? They had years of training and were on the council. Yoda was the Grand Master. Rey makes them look like Padawans. Yeah, it's pretty much implied. If you have a title and you're really powerful and everyone sees you as an authority figure, that you are seen as someone of authority and who has power. That's a given. And speaking of AP, I've played it. Oh, Alpha Protocol, very cool. I've played it through 9 to 10 times. That's above my average. Okay. My favorite part was the characters. Halbeck's scheme was really not the focus. Albatross #1. I am also in Team Albatross. I am a Z fanboy. So there you go. There's my flavors of Alpha Protocol, the Obsidian game we are waiting for a sequel of. SmUDboy, it's like he doesn't understand that synonymous does not equal interchangeable. Bob reads into Star Wars the way Jordan Peterson reads into the Bible. Oh, I don't know. I think that's giving Bob a bit too much credit there. Jordan Peterson really delves deep into mysticism. Okay, late capitalism is a term used to refer to capitalism from about 1945 onwards, with the implication that it is due to come to an end. Bob loves socialism. Oh, you don't say. Didn't know that. I had no idea people wanted capitalism to end. It's like, let's all live in huts and scrounge for food. Yeah.
Shared misery. That's the best way.
Okay, another comment from TLJ Screwjob. The kids grew up as slaves under the New Republic, so wouldn't they be happy that it's gone and join the First Order as a result? Huh. Depends on the power structure of who's in charge of the planet and what authority do they have. Because again, the planet, or at least the city, is buying and selling to everyone. So there's kind of like a neutral zone for marketing, or at least buying and selling. So that would imply assets as well, and they would be considered an asset if they're slaves. So yeah, they would welcome whoever would free them from slavery. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of what's his face now, General. Is it Thrawn?
Thrawn?
Yeah, Thrawn. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh yeah.
It's like what he did, at least in his little story arc, was that he didn't use fear to basically inspire his soldiers. He used like courage and charisma, so they'd actually fight greater and superior to the New Republic forces.
Huh.
You know, and it's like you would think that the New Order would kind of learn from their mistakes of using fear all the time, and actually kind of go, no, we want because we're such a small force, we'd want to try and maintain a level of recruitment to inspire people to join us, rather than kind of, you know, rounding up a bunch of kids and putting them into a level of indoctrination training.
Kind of reminds me of I think there was an advertisement in Solo, I think, of joining the Order, and that was what Han did on a whim to get money and whatever to come back and get Kreia or whatever her name was, his girlfriend. I just like that whole sort of vibe. Like, I like things outside of the normal hero's journey, not hero's journey, the normal epic save the universe sort of storytelling. Is just like, oh, just a guy on a ship wants to save a girl, cool. And there's a Space Marines type a recruitment poster. You know, I like that idea. It seemed neat. Okay, I think that's everything. Any other questions, guys? I think we got through that all in one piece. That was
sanity remains little intact.
It wasn't as bad as the previous video I did with Mahler that we took apart, MovieBob. But this was still pretty. There's at least 3 things he stated that was just ridiculous, and why people listen to that nonsense without actually stopping to listen and go, wait a second, that's not how reality works, Bob. I don't think anyone thinks that way except for you. So yeah, I think we've exhausted ourselves. I missed your super chat. I'm so sorry. Let me just go. Let me just go back up. I don't want to miss anyone's super chat because I'm still getting used to all this wonderful technology I'm witnessing my screen to. Where is it, your super chat? I don't think I found it. Is it like way in the beginning? Because I couldn't find it there.
There's this one here by TLJ Screwjob that is behind the scenes of Last Jedi. Ryan says that his first thought of why Luke was on the island was that, he gave up. I don't know if that was the one that was missed.
Jeez. I'm trying to... That's a really bad idea to pen a script after the fact. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, I should change that now that I've realized the set. And... or whenever he's scoping out the set, because he's talking about, was it an island off the coast of Ireland or something? So
yeah, I think so.
It's some set where they have this beautiful, vista for where they found Luke. Oh, he gave up. Great premise. Yeah, he's a hermit now. Therefore, let's change the story. I really hope not. That's no way to write a story. You could be inspired by, of course, a beautiful setting, but definitely not the way you want to do it. Okay, Red Chaos Tree. It was around the Rey is a fangirl, therefore she is a great Jedi. Yeah, I don't know. It's that is the strangest. Like, that is literally saying, here is my headcanon. I think this is why the movie is good, because of a meta narrative, which is stupid. It's. I don't know anyone who's ever made that argument. I've never seen it before. And anyone who starts saying the word meta-narrative to you, just stop listening to them or get a glass of water and just pour it on their chest. Because they need to cool off. It's like, listen, dude, you've had too much to drink. Go home. And that's the best thing you could do. Or maybe he'll punch you out. I have no idea. It's one of those two. Is he naturally a windbag? Yes.
He's a meta windbag.
He's a meta windbag. He's trying to emulate the windbags he's experienced as a child, so he can remember his childhood and then infuse that into his present, so he's forever young. And it's a constant reminiscing of hot air. Okay, I think we're rambling now. How do you explain the Bob? I can't do it anymore. He's too far out there. All right, guys, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it. Media League, of course, and UDP of coming on and taking the time. And then we had a little momentary spotting from xLetalis, who popped in and was a bit confused, but we do appreciate his jumping in here. He's always a great YouTuber to have on board. And what's the next game you'll be doing? That's up to my patrons. It's up to, they have to do a poll and they get their thoughts together. But hopefully I'll get KOTOR done by the end of, or before the start of Christmas. So thanks for your time, guys. I appreciate it. And have yourself a wonderful Saturday.